Welcome back to Zach's Game Room. I'm doing my latest board, and I'm going to do this board a little bit differently than the last ones. I'm building the first part of it, the base of the map, in GIMP, and I'm using those assets that we created in the Roll20 toolbox. So that is what you see coming together right now. That back base of the woods is a map by 2 Minute Tabletop, and the other assets are the ones that we saw in the Roll20 toolbox video. So while that's coming in the background, let me talk briefly about what the encounter is going to be like. So for timers, we have two. We have a storm timer, and that is going to tick down every d6 rounds, and that storm timer is going to blast a random tree with lightning, and anything within its blast is going to take ultimate damage. And that is to create some sense of foreboding at this wicked storm that's coming down because this alien ship is entering the atmosphere when it shouldn't be. The second timer we're going to have is going to be coupled with one of the threats. This is the first map where they're going to face a true Jotun, and that Jotun has a rifle that has augmented with Yag crystals. The timer for that is essentially going to be every other turn. It's going to spend one round aiming, and if they don't break line of sight with that aim, they're going to be hit and immediately dropped to 0 hit points. No roll to hit, no roll for damage. It's just break line of sight or drop. The threats they're going to face are that particular Jotun, who's going to be on that above cliff waiting for them, and they're going to be facing more of those Yag zombies. So the basis of the map is it's going to be a choke point along the road while they're heading back to their ship. We have that first overlook above, which you see we made with the cliff faces. And I had mentioned in that video that I wasn't going to like the little bit of white water on the corner, and I was dead on right. So I took another small snippet and used that to cover it up. Everything looks pretty good as it comes together in that map, I think. And by using GIMP, I was able to do some kind of on-the-fly editing where I rebuilt that grass and was able to erase some of it out. And I think that's really handy for kind of setting up your base layer for the map that you're going to use. The thing that's going to be static. It's not going to change. So the construction of all of this is going to come in two parts. The first part, which is me building the base layer in GIMP. And then the second part is going to be importing that into Roll20 and adding the tokens to the layer. So now we've cut over to the Roll20 screen, and you see that I have a really big grid. I've noticed that if you make things too large, it's hard for the players to see. Like, they have to zoom in, they have to move around, and I thought, let's try to build this map so that the default zoom level sees everything. So I gave myself a nice big grid, and I'm going to turn that off. But I wanted to get an idea of how everything would fit on the screen if someone was looking at it. So I dropped in that base layer that I made in GIMP, and now I'm adding my trees to it. This is the things that the lightning are going to strike, and that one fallen tree on the road, which is the choke point, which is how we are going to get them to have to stop and deal with what's going on. The trees are another 2 Minute Tabletop asset. Just dragging them in from my library, resizing them to fit, and picking out a decent number of them. Probably 6 to 8 sounds like a good amount, something that I can easily roll on a standard die. Something that provides some cover for my Jotun on the top, something that the players can use for cover below, so we needed some treats in that regard. And those treats are primarily going to be cover and things they can use to escape the line of sight. So now I've got those trees in there. I've pulled off the grid. And you can see I'm just moving everything around a little bit because when everything is lined up right to a grid, it looks weird. It's just too perfect. Everything is sized too exactly. It's in nice straight even rows, and that doesn't actually happen. So we're resizing all of the trees individually just a little bit, so they're all a little bit different size. As you can see, I also grabbed a little lightning bolt and a little fire token and sized them to fit around the trees nicely. And I'm just going to leave them in that white space so that it's easy for me to pull them in and use them later. We're going to hide that from the players with a dynamic lighting box. So where are we going to put enemies? Well, we want some of them in a position to jump out when the characters have to investigate. And we want some of them lying in wait something that can be found before they encounter the overall ambush. So 2 in the blockage, 2 in the trees around it, and then the Jotun on the second level. He's going to be firing down on them. Now, depending on how this goes, if it's going a little bit too easily, I'm going to grab some Fenris wolves and pull them in as well. So I'm just going to grab a token for that. And that'll be a third timer and an extra threat. If things are just going too well, he'll come in and then he can start doing his howl to summon more Fenris wolves. Once that's in place, the next thing we want to do is make sure that we have the light levels right, because there's a storm rolling in. With that storm rolling in, I don't want them to just be able to see everything. So what we're going to do is use the dynamic lighting coupled with the advanced fog of war, and we're going to give them a limited light radius. Now, with the light radius and the advanced fog of war, tokens will not be visible in dim light or beyond the light radius, but everything on the map layer will be. So it's important to make sure that the tokens are on the token layer and that those extra trees that I dragged in are on the map layer. Then I want to pull my test token through, see when things start appearing, when they don't. And I want it so that they have to get close before they spot any. Now we're going to use that token to get distances right. Now initially I had that grid on there, and you saw that he was really big. In this instance, a grid square is 10 feet instead of 5 feet. So it effectively doubles the measurements on the map. So a double move will take them right to the choke point if they want to just get right into it. And that's the map in its entirety right there. Boxed off so that they can only see the pretty art. I'm going to have it all revealed but cloaked by fog of war when they come into it, so that they kind of know where they're going. They have a lay of the land, because theoretically they've been here before. They took this route when they were coming from their ship. But the new tokens will be hidden, and that fallen tree will be hidden. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you see how we used the map items from the Roll20 toolbox video that I made to create an entirely custom map just for this encounter. And as always, happy gaming.